Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean Dumas.
Hello and good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another Persevering as an Introvert episode on Bravery Within. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in and allowing me to come into your area and stuff there, whether it's in your car, whether it's home, workspace, whatever it is there for a few minutes and bend your ear. That's exactly what I like doing. So today what I thought I would do is this is going to be, I don't want to upset any of the ladies out there, but I'm hoping this episode actually will help you ladies out there when it comes to us introverted men. I can talk about it from a man's point of view, but from a woman's point of view, that's not my strong point. I'm still working on that one there. But I thought episode 10 would be a fantastic one to talk about the characteristics of introverted men. And I wanted to talk about this because there's actually been a lot of misconception stuff that has been asked of me for anything that basically makes me up. I've been told many times there that I'm extremely hard to get to know, very closed off. I've built walls up, which are all true. I'm not arguing that point whatsoever. And I happen to know because I have a lot of introverted friends. I don't allow many close to me. I guess they're probably better known as acquaintances. But over the years, I've gotten to know introverted men and kind of what makes them tick, and along with the women too, because it really, really helps because when we're basically misconceived of, okay, well, you're just rude, you're snobbish because you don't talk to anybody, you're closed off, you don't want to be around anybody, you don't have a sense of humor. There's so many things that are misconstrued about us. And one thing that I'm hoping with all these podcasts is I can basically clear the air on some of this. As introverts, we have a very, very hard time talking about our feelings, our emotions, and for men, that's even more. When it comes down to either dating, trying to find a mate, a partner to share our lives with, just even friendships or, anything like that, it's really, really hard for us to open up. And I have been told many, many, many times, and I probably will be told many more times, that I'm actually really hard to get to know. And it may sound kind of funny because I do podcasts and I talk about it and it seems like I'm really, really open, which in a matter of speaking, I am, but to get in to learn who I am and what makes me tick and why I do the things the way I do, I don't just let anybody in to learn that stuff. And us introverts are all pretty much the same. So as from an introvert standpoint, if you're listening to this episode, then you're going, yep, I understand, Sean, I know exactly where you're coming from. As an extrovert, you're going, okay, I'm lost. So let me see if I can help clear some of these things up for you. The biggest misconception that I have to say is introverts cannot be an alpha male. Now, in this society, and especially in the area that I live in and stuff, there you've always got one strong man there, and then you've got several that help him out. They all kind of are together. But you always have one man that kind of like leads the charge, leads the revolt, leads the team. And surprisingly, I am one of those alpha males. I have had people challenge my authority. I've had people challenge who I am and try to basically push me out of the way, and it doesn't work because even though I'm an introvert and I'm closed off, it doesn't mean that I'm weak. It doesn't mean that I'm not strong. And I've met my fair share of introverted men that are extremely strong, and they're some of the strongest men that I've ever met. You don't have to be loud and boisterous to be an alpha male. That's a popular misconception. And I have found that us introverted men, because we're strong, we're confident, whether you care to admit it or not, there and stuff there, assertive, and we like to be in control of things, especially of things around, let's just be honest here and stuff there. Most men like being in control. It just helps them. We're kind of wired that way. I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that, but we're kind of wired that way. We're wired to protect our mates, our partners. We're supposed to provide for them. We're supposed to be there, the shoulders. We're supposed to be the rocks for, the friends and the family and everybody else when they need something. And that's to me, that's kind of what makes up an alpha male. Is I don't think you have to be loud. I don't think you have to be boisterous. I don't think you have to be, mean in any way, shape, or form. I don't think you have to yell at people to be an alpha male. I've seen more alpha males that are quiet and reserved because they're strong, they're caring, and they'll do what it takes there to protect, like me, I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family and be there for them. No matter what, anybody could call me at any time, and I'll be right there to listen to whatever I need. And to me, that's what an alpha male is, and that's one of the characteristics I think that makes up introverted men, but we get looked over so easy because most of the time, introverted men aren't really noticed. We just pretty much stay quiet. We do our job, and then we go home. We do whatever we're supposed to do. We typically don't do a lot of complaining. We're very independent, very self-sufficient, and a lot of employers like us because they don't really have to manage us. They don't really have to watch over us. So that kind of goes hand in hand with an alpha male, because as an alpha male, you need to take the reins. You need to watch out for things. You need to come up with the answers, come up with solutions, be the first one in, last one out. And let's be honest, I was a manager for over 30 years. You don't get to be a manager unless you're good. And I've run departments, I've run businesses, I have run my own business. You name it, I've pretty much jumped in and done it all. So to me, an alpha male is somebody that's strong and compassionate and caring, and they watch out for their mates and for their team and for their family and everything else. I think that's one thing that makes up an introverted man, because you don't have to sit there and basically yell and point your fingers and be derogatory towards people. To me, that's not an alpha male. An alpha male like me, I was always first one in, last one out. Whatever my team did, I did. I never asked anybody on my team to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And I got told many times by my team that I shouldn't be doing that because I'm the manager or department head or whatever it is, and I should be doing more important things. And I said, there is nothing more important than taking out the trash, restocking stuff, filling in for somebody that is gone, whatever it takes. I basically floated to every position, whatever it was, that's where I filled in, because that's where I needed to be to keep my team going. And they saw something in me that is like, okay, well, if he can do it, then if it's not below him, then that means I can do it. And my team that I had was incredible. I mean, I got so lucky in having such good people that I've worked with in the past. And I do miss working with a lot of them because they were fantastic. They showed up for on time. They were early. They would stay late if we needed to. They would come in, I rarely had to do it, but they would come in on a day off if they had to. I just tried to always stay away from that there. So being a manager for over 3 decades proves that I'm an alpha male, and it proves that an introverted man can be an alpha male. You don't have to, like I said, you don't have to be loud and boisterous to be an alpha male. And I think that's one of the characteristics that makes up a good introverted man, mainly because he looks out for everybody, he takes care of things, he's strong and compassionate. So to me, that if you're trying to attract a mate that is strong, I've been told many times a strong silent type is what people look for. And sometimes I think they misconstrue that with an extroverted person, because they're more outgoing, they're more rambunctious, they're more amazing. They don't mind being center of attention, where introverts hate all of that. And if you're interested in trying to find a mate that is a strong silent type, then you're looking in the right area for an introverted man. But the way you go about trying to get into the relationship with the guy is huge. You have to be really, really careful with that, because even though that we're strong and compassionate and everything else, we're very, very hard to open up. It's trying, for the most part, it's trying to open up a tin can without a can opener. I don't know how else to put it. It's difficult. So it takes a little bit to get to know, that person. And as men, we've been taught and trained, and from basically, if you're from this area in the middle of podunk like I am, you've been taught you don't talk about your feelings, you hide it all away, you compartmentalize it. If you do have pain, you suck it up and you keep right on moving. You don't let it slow you down. So with all of that stuff that's rolling through our heads, and yes, I understand that is old school mentality, it's old school thinking, but that still works up here in this area. Now I can't speak to other areas areas and stuff there, I can only hope that some of what I'm talking about can transcend into those areas. That's what I'm hoping for. But all I'm trying to do today is if you're interested in an introverted man, or you've never considered one, most of us men don't say much. I'll be honest. I don't talk about my feelings. I don't talk about what bothers me, and I admit I don't ask for a lot of help. It's probably one of my downfalls. I have gotten better about it though. As part of my weight loss journey and stuff that's one of the things that I've struggled with and I've worked on, and I'm not the best at it yet, but I am starting to get a little bit better in that area. But just know that most of us, introverted men, we're not really forthcoming with our feelings or anything that we're thinking about or our pain or anything like that. It's just we're extremely private. And if you're interested in somebody like me or somebody like us, the introverted men, that's something that you're going to have to kind of, basically get used to. But when you finally, I'll be honest, when you finally break through, and it may take time. I mean, I've had some people that it's taken years before I've trusted them enough to open up with who I am and what makes me tick. Once you finally break through, we actually can be very, very gentle. We're very warm. We're very thoughtful. You'd be surprised on how much open up, because we have all of that closed off, and we only want to share that with certain people. We only want to be that way with somebody that's not going to violate our trust and not basically leave us when we need them the most. Because the moment that you start pushing too hard or demanding too much out of us or not giving us our time to basically recharge alone and stuff, you're going to lose that person. So you're going to have to learn basically ahead of time there that an introverted man is going to need their own alone time. They need time to basically refocus, restabilize, recharge, especially after, if you... anytime of like a company party or a get together or anything like that, that stuff drains us so fast. And that goes for introverted women as well. I mean, I know that for a fact because I know some women are that way. And after they get together, either a family deal or a party that we rarely attend, but when we do attend them, it drains us so very fast. And I know some of this stuff is actually going to go over and describe introverted women as well, and which I'm hoping. I'm just letting you know ahead of time there that I'm a man, so I basically can only say it from a man's point of view. But I'm not trying to close anybody out on this one here, and I'm not trying to make anybody the bad guy. I'm just trying to, basically let you know this is kind of what you're up against. If you're interested in the strong silent type, well, an introverted man might be to the way to go, because as long as you understand that, as long as there's basically you keep the pressure low, we love having an open relationship. I'll be honest stuff there with you. We'll talk, but it just takes time. But what you have to understand is it has to basically be a no pressure kind of way of doing it. It's a different kind of relationship. We do enjoy hanging out with your friends or our friends or whatever it is. But one thing that you have to understand too is dating can be very, very hard for us, because there's a kind of an understanding that men have to plan the dates and have to plan the food and be there for them, and we have to go through all the steps. Well, to us, that is so overwhelming. It can be a lot. It's not that we don't mind doing it, but it's just overwhelming. So after the date and trying to figure out if we did good or did we not share enough to keep you interested or not, there's so much that's going on. So if you can basically have like a no pressure kind of date or relationship, you'll be very, very amazed on what you will get out of an introverted man. It's so hard to basically explain. I'll be honest, I struggled trying to write this episode. it's overwhelming. But keep in mind that most of us, like me, I can read body language very, very well. That's one thing that as a manager you learn real fast, is because somebody can say one thing, but your body language will typically betray you if you're trying to pull a fast one. And I'm very, very good at watching social cues, watching your eyes, watching your fidgets, watching your hands. So you have to be careful with all that. So if you're interested in dating an introverted man, just watch your body language, because that can be a huge social cue for us to kind of keep an eye on. It's like, maybe they're not real interested. And the moment that we feel that you're not interested or you're not into us, boom, done. It's shut down. There's no getting a second chance at us. I know it's kind of weird. I know it's kind of a hard thing to come up with, but when you're so reserved like what we are, it takes time for us to share. Now, you could go 6 months and not learn anything about the person, or on a very limited basis. And then all of a sudden you'll sit down and you start to have a meal, and all of a sudden they'll talk for 6 hours and tell you everything. It'll be just like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, where did all this come from? It's like you gave them time to feel comfortable and to share at their pace. It's amazing how if you just give them a little bit of time and what you'll get out of it. But the harder you push and the more you demand out of them, you actually end up shutting them down. You have to be, I know that sounds weird, and that's why I let out with the whole alpha male thing at the beginning. We're very strong, we're very compassionate, we're good leaders, we're caring, and we're thoughtful. But when it comes to our own personal feelings, that is like a whole different ballgame at that point, which I know most of the time everybody knows that personal feelings are a whole different ballgame. But with introverted men, it's like, okay, wait a minute here. It's as long as we can see basically that you're interested in what we're talking about, you lean forward a little bit, or you smile a little bit, or you basically continue on with the conversation. You're gonna find that we'll open up a little bit faster by doing that. We just want to make sure that if we're going to start talking, let's be honest, if we're going to start talking about our feelings and what makes us up, we want to make sure that we're talking to the right person, and you're going to be receptive of it. There's so many people. I've been in so many relationships. I mean, and that makes me sound like I've been in hundreds. Let's be honest. I've probably been in enough relationships to fill up both hands, and that's it. I'm not the biggest person to be in relationships, but I'm going to tell you something that always worked, that most everybody did with me, is they'll ask me, okay, well, what makes you you? What's one of your quirks that it drives you crazy? And the moment that I go to start talking about it, then they jump in and say, oh, well, that bothers me too. And then they spend 20 minutes talking about it. The moment you start shutting me down after asking a question and not allowing me to talk, because I may not be the fastest person to talk, and you're going to think, Sean, you talk in a podcast, you talk on the internet. What are you doing? What do you mean you can't talk? This is different. I'm not actually looking at somebody sitting in front of me. I'm looking at two screens that has tons of information all over it and notes and stuff there. So to me, I can talk because I feel comfortable. And that's what I'm trying to explain, is you have to allow them to feel comfortable, and they'll open up at their own pace. You can't force them to do anything, because the harder you push, the more you're going to shut them down. And you're basically going to shoot yourself in the foot thinking, I am never going to get through to this person. I'm done. I'm just going to chuck it out the window. Then I'm not even going to try for a relationship. And the moment that we start feeling anything like that, boom, done. Where you shut us down at that point. And I'm not sure if there's anything that you can do to get us back. Now, I'm not speaking for all the the introverted men out there. I'm sure there's some men that'll give you a second or third chance. And most of the time I will give you a second chance. But if we're dating and we go our waysides, you never get a second crack at me again. You had your one chance, and I did everything I could to keep it going. I went above and beyond. You just don't get another run at me. So, and I know there are other men out there that aren't like me. They're not wired like me. And it's probably a good thing all the way, for all of them. But what I'm trying to do is just do a basic general overlay of, okay, this is general, for what basically most introverted men are. And I know it doesn't seem right, but especially up here where I live, Men just don't talk about their feelings. I mean, basically, you can be out there and you can be out in the field and get run over by a combine, rip your arm off and everything else, and you put a little duct tape on it. Yep, I'm good. Yep, feel that duct tape. Yep, it just sealed it right up. You get back in, you keep right on moving. And that's the way we're raised around here. So if that's, an extroverted men, I know that for a fact, they're the same way. They don't say anything. They may be, more open. They may be into partying or wanting to be center of attention, but I can tell you that even extroverted men that are raised in this area are the same way. It's like, you don't talk about it. Rub a little dirt on that there and that ripped off arm and you'll be just fine. We got to complete the day, and that's at 8 o'clock in the morning and you work till 9 at night. So you just get used to locking everything away. So unless you give us the time to open up on our terms, you might find there it's like, I'm never going to get through to him. I don't understand what else to do. And then all of a sudden, if you give time and work with them and just don't push too hard, you'd be surprised how all of a sudden when they start opening up and talking to you, because what you did is basically you put us at ease, and that is something that we crave. We want to make sure that you feel excited and you understand that you want to listen to us. You want to be part of the conversation. You want to understand. And if you just let us settle down and stuff, you'd be surprised. Now, granted, most introverted, I don't know if any introverted men are going to open up on the first few dates or just hanging out. If you go, like me, if you go for a drive in the hills, it's pretty hard to get somebody to open up. It takes months before I start talking about what makes me me. I'll be honest. And I want to say, honestly, I want to see if you're going to put the time in to get to know me and get to know me on my terms. Because once I start realizing that you will, then it's like, okay, here we go. I'm going to start talking to you, and I'll start telling you about things that I don't talk to about anybody else, because you've given me the chance to relax. And now with you just being that way, I feel like I can be myself. When I start feeling that I can be myself and I'm not going to be judged and, basically ridiculed or anything like that then I'll start opening up with my feelings and what makes me me. So you've given me time to be myself. You've given myself, basically time to be, relaxed, eased into it and everything else. I can't stress that enough. If you're interested in, one of us, basically, in an introverted man, then these are just some of the characteristics that makes us us. Now, like I said, this is a generalization of introverted men. Not all introverted men are the same, but I'm going to be honest with you. I've met a lot of introverted men. There have been a lot of friends that I've hung out with and everything else, and for the vast majority, we're all wired pretty much the same way. So if you're thinking about trying to get one of the strong, silent type, and I'm not saying that the extroverted men can't be, because there's a lot of them as well. They're just, most of them, they're just different. They're the exact opposite of us. But if we didn't have them, then you wouldn't know there is any introverted man. We got to have them around, so they help make us who we are. But as long as you just give us time to come out and basically come out on our own time, just to talk about things, to what makes us us, you'll be surprised on how kind, caring, and compassionate an introverted man really is. It just takes time for us to open up. And I know that can be irritating. It can be, if it'll feel like, my goodness, am I ever going to get through to this guy? You are, by just basically being there for him, helping him out, and just understanding this is going to take time. You'd be surprised in once we start feeling more comfortable, you'll be surprised on how far that'll get you. So what I thought about is I was trying to come up, I've covered a lot already in this first half of the podcast, but I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to go about this, maybe I can try to come up with some exact things that makes us who we are. So I came up with a little bit of a list, and hopefully some of these make a little bit more sense. And like I said, I've already covered some of these, so just bear with me as I'm going through, because as you all know by listening to my podcast, I have notes on my screen. I have it planned out what I'm going to say, and I typically don't stick to the format, so I'm like all over the place. So some of these I may have already brought up, but just so you know, one of the things is we don't like being the center of attention. Birthday parties, like me when they wanted to give me awards at my work, even when they even talked about my birthday, it made me very uncomfortable, and I hated when they do that. We don't like public attention. I don't know how else to say it. There is, we don't like being the center of attention. We don't want the spotlight on us. If you feel that you want to do something nice, keep it on the down low. Trust me that if you want to make some brownie points with me, don't send, if it's my birthday, don't send pink balloons, purple balloons, noisemakers, anything huge that's going to attract attention. Basically, that's basically going to just upset me, and I'm not going to be real happy about it. So all the money that you put into it isn't going to work. It's not going to get you anywhere. So just know that we don't like being the center of attention. That just doesn't happen. If you want somebody that likes being center of attention, goes to bars, goes to parties and all that, and they can dance, they like woo 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 going crazy out on the dance floor, then you want an extrovert. You're not going to want an introvert, because you're not, when all's said and done, we're not interested in having everybody see us. It's not like I want to walk around with a lime green shirt on that says "see me" and then have a neon light above my head. That's the last thing. I'll walk around in all black clothes and hide behind a curtain if I have to. It's just the way I am. That leads into, typically they're shy, and you're gonna say, okay, Sean, this can't relate to you, but unfortunately it does. I can talk to anybody. I mean, I do pretty well in that. I'm a heck of a salesperson. I'm a manager, and I can talk to pretty much anybody about any subject. I may not be able to go into a lot of depth on every subject because I'm not the best at it. But for the most part, I'm shy. I don't typically, especially with the relationships, you can pretty much write me off about making the first step. That's never going to happen. I have no interest in making the first step. If you're interested in me, that person's going to have to step up to the plate and let me know. And that's pretty much the way all my relationships have been. I rarely made the first move. And that comes up to a Taurus thing too. Like I said, I'm a Taurus. And Tauruses never make the first move. We'll walk all the way up to the line. We'll ask you in a roundabout way. You may not even know it, but we may ask you in a roundabout way to make the first step. But unfortunately, you're going to have to. And a lot of introverted men are the same way. For like me, I don't want to bother somebody. I don't want to burden them, especially if I'm interested in them and they're not interested in me. I would feel horrible because I feel like I put them in an uncomfortable position. And it's like, I don't want to do that. So for me, especially in relationships, I mean, on a shy meter of 0 being the lowest and 10 being absolutely shy, I'm probably a 14. I'm not gonna lie. And I know a lot of men are the same way. Now, there are some men that are good at taking this step forward. And I envy those guys. It's like, oh my goodness, how do you guys do it? I don't understand. But for the most part, we just have a hard time sharing. Keep in mind, we just have a hard time sharing who we are, what makes us who it is. And I just don't feel like I want to burden anybody. And I know a lot of my introverted friends are the same way. So when it comes to, I don't go to parties for that reason, because basically I find small talk, good Lord, I'm sorry about that. Small talk, absolutely just like nails in a chalkboard. I cannot stand it. If you want to have an in-depth conversation about what makes up the universe, or you want to get into some deep feelings, or anything like that, then those are the kind of conversations I want to have. But I have to have them basically one-on-one, or at the most 2-on-1 for the most part. It has to be in a small, intimate setting. I'm not saying that, I'm trying to be naughty or anything like that there. It's just, if you want me to talk and open up, it has to be in a very, very small setting. And I know most introverted men are the same way. So if you can keep that like in the back of your mind, the shyness that we have will typically, subside over a little bit of time, and they'll start talking. Now, I know some introverted men, they never open up. That's just the way they are. And that's fine. That's who they are. That's what makes them who they are. And so it's taken me time to get to know some of those. And there are women that are the same way. They're very, very shy. Introverted women are very, very shy. They keep to themselves. They don't typically make the first move. I'll be honest. We require, I guess, an introvert or an extrovert to basically pull us out of our shell and say, hey, you want to be in a relationship. So keep in mind that, we're very shy. We don't like being the center of attention. And for the most part, we're not easily upset. We don't, typically we don't anger easily. We're pretty good with the cool heads, which goes along. That's why I said we make great alpha males, because we can make decisions. Now there are some people, some of them that cannot make decisions. There's no doubt about it. I would have to say there's more introverted men that cannot make decisions that can actually make decisions. Most of them are just, yep, whatever you want to do, basically because they just don't want to upset the apple cart, and they don't want to make you mad. They don't want you upset with them. They don't want to, make you feel uneasy or uncomfortable or anything like that. So they don't make decisions. So they're not easily angered. They really, very little sets them off. And one thing that I've heard too and stuff there, and now to me, I used to, is holding grudges, because once you get upset, you just kind of hold a grudge. But most of us anymore, we don't hold grudges. I mean, it doesn't do any good to hold a grudge, because all you're basically doing is hurting yourself in the end. So we just pretty much let things roll. We're not big on conflict or confrontation. So I'll be honest, that is not, I do not like it. I do not like conflict. I do not like confrontation. My son is amazing. He's so strong, and he has no problem telling somebody how he feels. And he's an introvert, and I don't know how he does it. I'm so envious of it, because I'm either, there's basically two settings to me. One, I'm very happy. I'm very laid back. I'll do whatever it takes to keep people happy. I like making people feel comfortable. And then the other side is there's no in between. And then it's basically, then I just basically turn into the devil, and I say things that hurt people, and I just get really, really mean. There's no in between. So for me to avoid conflict, any kind of confrontation, anything like that it's huge for me, because it's like I'm either really, really nice, or I'm like the spawn of Satan. There's not really a lot of in between. And anybody that knows me on a personal level stuff, they know that exactly, because once I basically just lose it, I lose it, and there's no basically reining me back. And I know there's a lot of introverted men that are the same way. So we're very laid back. That's why once you get to know us, we're very compassionate. We're loving. We're caring. We're strong. It's amazing on how much how much we are, because we keep it so locked up. We keep it so locked away, so people don't actually get to know who we really are, because we find that it's safer that way. And for somebody like me that has been in the relationships that I have, 9 times out of 10 I was the one that got hurt in the relationship, because the person left me. And it was just, it's kind of like you get to a point where you just want to basically just close everything off to protect yourself. So if you're trying to basically find a mate in an introverted man, know that these are all kinds of things that you're going to be kind of like an uphill battle. You're definitely going to be climbing a mountain to get to know the person, but once you finally climb the mountain, reach the peak, and you get him to start opening up, and you start going down the backside where he starts sharing everything, it's going to be worth the trip, trust me. Most of us introverted men, once we finally feel comfortable being who we are, and we know we're not going to be ridiculed and picked on for it, we'll talk to you. And like me, if you flat out ask a question, once I get to trust you and get to know you, I'll tell you the honest truth every time. I'm not going to duck the question. I'm really good at giving a partial answer. Mainly because if you didn't ask the question right, I'm not going to give you the correct answer that you're looking for. I'm not going to just divulge the information. But that's a safety thing. That's what it all comes down to, is protecting myself and protecting who I am. If you want to get to know us on a better level, have one-on-one conversations with us. Like I talked before, small talk grates on our nerves. It's just like, I don't like... If you start small talking me, and then basically I'm gonna walk off, because I can't do it. I mean, I have to because I'm in management positions pretty much all my life. People come to me currently when they need things. So, I make sure that I'm always nice and I talk to them and do whatever I can because the people that I work with are phenomenal. I love working with them. So it doesn't bother me. But if I don't know you, if I'm just walking through the mall and you start trying to do some small talk or whatever, you're going to push me away real quick because it's like, I don't want to do this. I just don't want to go down that road. But for the most part, anybody that I do know, I'm all 100% in. I like talking with them. But, deep conversations for us are actually really attractive. So if you're interested in that, have some, good topics to talk about. Granted, we may not open up right away, like I've said, but it's a great place to start. And then when all said and done, remember, they're going to need some just me time after, if you went to a party or if it's a holiday with family or, it's a work function or whatever it is. People used to get so mad at me because I was in a management position. I ran a department at my previous job and every other person literally in management was an extrovert. I was the only introvert that was there. And I can't stress enough how draining it was because that was basically 12 people coming after me constantly, wanting to talk, wanting to, bend my ear, wanted me to go to the bar with them, wanted me to do all these things after we'd already spent 8 or 9 hours in meetings talking about everything that we needed to make the company run. I couldn't tell you because we always went out for supper, which was a nice thing. The owner always took us out. He was always good. He always treated us good in that, we always had nice rooms and everything there. But they didn't understand as soon as basically social protocol let me go by supper being done, I left. It was gone. And I knew they got mad at me because it's like, well, I would like to talk to you. You don't understand. I just spent the last 12 hours among all you extroverts. And unless you're an introvert, you have no idea where I'm coming from. And if you are an introvert, you know exactly how draining that is. I literally would go back to my motel room. I would shut everything off except for some soft music and just sit there and decompress. And it would take me an hour before I could finally start breathing like normal again. Because it was so much. I mean, it's such a drain doing those meetings and being a part. Now, did I like doing it because I got to talk about my department and help my people out and secure better raises and bonuses? Absolutely. I did it because I was fighting for my team to do everything that I can to try to get them paid better, more benefits, better, whatever it was. I did everything to try to take some of the workload off of them. But going through that time was insane because it was so draining. It would take me a week to come back to where my energy levels were back to somewhat normal again because it was so draining. And it was a 3-day deal. I mean, it was just like, for me, I am Mr. Routine. I have everything. I do everything at a certain time. It's just the way that I am. And when you go to something like this, you're staying in a motel, so your routine is naturally just out the window. I mean, it's just whatever, basically you had to be at the meeting at a certain time, you left a certain time, you went out for supper together, you had to be there. I mean, there was just everything there, but it was overwhelming. So for me, getting that alone time after the meetings and even doing social functions, even at work and stuff, when I get home, it's just like, I know it sounds funny. I'm talking, on the internet right now and talking to you. But basically on most days, if I'm not doing my podcast, for lack of better words, I've used up my words. I was like, I'm out. I was like, I don't know what else to say. I'm finished. And there's even some days and stuff there that I struggle a little bit to get started in my podcast because it's like, I talk for about 50 minutes and it's like, okay, am I going to have enough words? I know it sounds funny, but do I have enough words to get through the podcast? And well, so far I have. There's a lot of episodes out there. So, obviously I come up with the words and stuff, but just knowing that your introverted man is going to need alone time after doing these social protocols and everything else and stuff there, just know that they're not mad at you or anything like that. They just need time to recharge because it's overwhelming, and it taps our batteries so bad. So I mean, so just keep that in mind. If you're interested in somebody like us, just know that after that's all said and done, the best thing that you can do is just leave them. Either they can go out to the garage and just do something out there that's simple, or just sit there. For me, I like going for drives in the hills, and I'll turn on some music. Sometimes I don't even do that. I just roll the windows down, let the air flow through, and that kind of like recharges me, because you're getting nature's air, which is fantastic because you can smell the pine trees, or you can see the birch trees, that especially in the fall when they're changing. That is like simply the best time to do it. I sit along a lake, and you can just smell the water as it comes off the ocean. You can hear it, just basically crashing into the rocks and everything else. It's amazing. We have a lot of beautiful lakes up here, so it's just, it just kind of helps recharge. Another thing that a lot of us introverted men, and you have heard Willow on my podcast, is we typically like having a pet, and a lot of us men have dogs, and I've had cats. I've known plenty of men that have cats, and only cats. I mean, it's completely up to you, whatever you want. And like I said, I've had plenty of cats. I've had plenty of pups. I've rescued a bunch. My son and I have rescued pups. But to me, Willow she's not real good in the conversation part. She doesn't really talk, but she's an incredible listener. In fact, she's laying right here beside me while I'm doing this podcast. And it's so neat because animals, and I talked about this in I think it's Hodgepodge episode number 1, our furry angels. I talked about how much they basically help our souls. They help us heal. They help us recharge. They're incredible. And we find that, me personally, I take her everywhere I can. I mean, that's the reason why I have a huge back seat there. I mean, I have a 4-door pickup, and the whole back seat is all hers. And of course, that's not enough. So she'll jump over the console and hop up in the passenger seat, which I'm fine with. It doesn't bother me none there. I make sure, that she's safe. And, the only time I allow that is if there's nobody around. So that way, in case we run into trouble, at least in the back seat, she's got some protection, but if there's nobody around, or if we're at the lake or whatever and stuff there, then I let her jump in the front. But for us, pups or cats or whatever the animal is and stuff there, whatever your pet of choice is, we find them very, very comforting. They're wonderful, because if I've had a stressful day, in fact, I'm petting Willow's head as we're talking. She's right here by me. I find her very calming, very soothing. Now, granted, she's just a little over a year old, and we're still trying to get out of the puppy phase. And oh my goodness, corgis are so hard on everything. They destroy everything. And they push you right to your edge of the limits with them. But once they hit 14 to 16 months after that, then they don't touch anything ever again. They're amazing little creatures. And she helps keep me settled down. We have supper together, breakfast together. She goes everywhere with me. And it's so nice, and it's so comforting, because it's kind of like she helps me recharge. She basically, helps me settle down. If I've had a bad day, she'll listen. She's wonderful at listening. Absolutely wonderful. I have no idea how she's so patient with me, but she is. And for me, having her around has been incredible, because I have been so fortunate over the past 2 decades to have a pup in my house, and I get to be theirs. I mean, I don't consider owning them. I figure they own me, because they're wonderful, aren't you? Yeah, right there. She's now you're up here on my lap, and I love having her around, because she just basically, if I've had a bad day, she'll relax me, de-stress me, and she's wonderful to have around. So most introverted men are gonna like to have some sort of pet. Now, like, not all of them have pups, not all of them have cats. I do know I've had a couple of them that like snakes, lizards, iguanas. It's basically whatever basically you feel comfortable, whatever kind of pet. If you have that, and the nice thing about it, typically, that shows introverted men are compassionate, they're caring, they're loving, because they're caring for another creature. And I have been told it even in my own relationships, that was one of the things that attracted him the most, was because I take very good care of her. She doesn't get hurt, she doesn't want for anything, she's always got food, she's always got a ton of treats, chewies, toys, she sleeps on the couch, she sleeps with me every night, and they said that if you can take care of an animal like that, and then that typically means you're going to take care of your mate the same way. And it's true, because I did take care of my mates and my partners the exact same way. I made sure that I was always there for them, always took care of them. I never yelled at them. I mean, I just see it the same way. So to me, that is a big telltale sign, if you're interested, is if they're really, really good with their pets, typically they're going to be really, really good with their partners. Not always, but I would have to say 95% of the time that pretty much holds true. So after all of that being said, those are some of the things that I come up with. Just remember that we like to be alone most of the time. For me, I spend, once I get away from work, my alone time is probably 90% of the time. And that's who I am. Willow takes up, she's always there for me. I never have to worry about her. But just keep in mind that your introverted man needs a lot of alone time, because they need to be recharged. For us to be in social interactions, remember, it drains us of energy. It'll just eat us alive, for a lack of better words. It's not that we don't want to be around people. It's not that we don't want to be invited to certain festivities. I don't know what else to say but festivities. But just know that once it's all said and done, that we need time alone to recharge. That's really, I can't stress that enough. And I've been in relationships where my mate did not understand that whatsoever. They thought that I was just basically trying to run around on them and do whatever I wanted to do and just not be around them. And nothing can be further from the truth, because when I'm in a relationship, they get 100% of everything that I have. I give them literally everything that I can possibly give them. And that is very, very draining. But that person, if I'm going to be in a relationship with you, they deserve nothing less than 100% of me. And just know that there are times that I have to get away. I mean, you do not need to spend 100% of your time together, and you don't have to do 100% of everything together. You have to still do your own things. You have your own friends. You still need to go out with them on your own, because that's just what they were friends before. You're friends before. They're going to be friends after. Friends during the relationship. And it's just helpful. And introverted men, most of the time, we just end up either going fishing or hunting or driving in the hills or reading or whatever it is to get away from everybody else. That's pretty much what we need to do to recharge. So if you can figure that out and understand where we're coming from and know it's not you, I think you can have an incredible relationship with an introverted man. These are just some of the characteristics that make us up. I mean, I try to cover as many as I can, and yes, they all pretty much describe me, because I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I've talked to a lot of introverted men, a lot of introverted women, and commonalities on both sides, both sexes. They basically just say this is pretty much what makes us who we are. Because I know introverted women are the same way. They need time on their own. They need time to have their bubble baths, and they need time to read or watch those sappy movies that they like that we men can't stand. So just know that if you're going to get involved with an introverted person, that these are the things that you're going to have to basically come to terms with. And if you can't come to terms with them, it's going to be kind of a tough relationship, not going to lie. And you're probably not going to get everything out of the relationship that you're hoping for. So as long as you can understand that, we're pretty good. And I just want to, and reiterate that introverted man can be an alpha male. He can be a leader. He can be a manager. He can take care of his family and everything else. And what makes an alpha male in my book is somebody that's strong, caring, compassionate, and loving. to me, that's what an alpha male is. It's not being loud and boisterous and abusive and pointing fingers and everything else. But whoever you fall in love with, that's completely up to you. The heart is weird. The heart will do whatever it wants to do. You can have all the books, all the manuals, and your brain can say one thing, say, no, we're not interested in it. And keep in mind, it doesn't matter who you fall in love with. It all comes down to what the heart says. You can't change the heart. You can't force it to love somebody, even though you want to love that person. You can't force it to not love somebody that it cares about. I mean, you just can't. It just doesn't happen. But if you're thinking about falling in love with an introverted man, just know that these are some of the characteristics that make us who we are. And I've been too many times where people have seen those characteristics because I'm a good listener, I'm caring, compassionate, and everything else, and they dump me into the friend category. And it's just like, okay, well, since I'm in the friend category, I guess that pretty well eliminates any chance of having some sort of closer relationship. And I was told so many times, like, well, I just really wish we weren't just friends. Well, you can't dump me into the friend category and then a year later, when it's convenient for you, pull me out of the friend category and make it work. Because most of the time it's like, okay, well, you've already told me how you want to be. So, and keep in mind, I mean, you can't force your heart to love somebody. That you either do or you don't. I mean, that darn heart, it's kind of pesky no matter what you do. So just take into account that it's the journey and not the destination of getting to knowing somebody. Spending time with that somebody special, that's really what it's all about. You don't need to know everything about them, because I find it very attractive that 10 years later I was still finding out things about my previous partner and stuff there when I was in the marriage and stuff. It was very intoxicating, because it's like, well, I thought I knew everything, and yet here's something else to learn. And I knew that she wasn't holding things back. I mean, it was just, you just learn. A certain situation brought up a memory or something that used to happen, and you talk about it. And to me, that's fantastic. That's the best part, is you're always learning about your spouse, your mate, your partner, whatever term you want to use. That's the best part. It's not knowing everything. It's constantly learning and spending the time together and getting to know each other. To me, that's what makes a relationship everything worth it. And deep conversation, to me, it doesn't get much better than that. So I'm noticing on my monitor and stuff here, I'm out of time again for this episode. They always seem to sneak up. I always seem to run out of time. So remember, you got this. I believe in you. If you're interested in dating an introverted man, I hope some of these things will help you. Maybe it'll help you understand a little bit better what makes us who we are and why we do certain things. I just hope it helps you. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment on the pages. Remember, anything that you want to comment, I got my Facebook page you're welcome to. If you have questions, you can send it to my email address at seangmorris@gmail.com. Just whatever you can do, share and like and tell people, because all I'm trying to do is help people. I'm not interested in anything else but just you're my extended family. I want to help you. And I'm just trying to give you some information to the best of my abilities, and hopefully some of these here will help you along the way. So, being that we're out of time, I'm looking at it, and I still have, guess what? Oh, the dad joke of the day. You thought you were going to get away with this, but no, sorry, ain't going to happen. So if you're ready to go, let the groaning and eye rolls begin, because here's the dad joke of the day. Do you know why the ghost was so tired? Because he always had to work the graveyard shift. I about fell out of my chair again when I read that one. I was like, oh, that's so awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in. You guys are amazing. I love talking to you guys. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for jumping in, all the dad jokes you're sending me. It is absolutely wonderful to hear from you, and I continue to wait to hear from you. So, as always, all my love and support,